We move to Algeria now, where demonstrators have clashed with security forces in the capital, Algiers, as the head of the army warns that time is running out after weeks of anti-government protests. Thousands of demonstrators marched through the streets of Algiers and cities across the country, calling for radical change in the 8th week of mass protests. Now, analysts say Lieutenant General Ahmed Saleh's remarks are the strongest indication yet that the military, which has said it supports a transition period after the April 2nd resignation of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika, is losing patience. Mr. Bouteflika's departure failed to placate many Algerians who still want to topple the old regime. We spoke about him earlier. Now he has a shot at remaining for a really long time in government. Talking about Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the country's parliament just approved amendments to the constitution that could keep him up until 2030, though they still have to be endorsed in a referendum to take effect. Now, if endorsed, the changes will extend President Sisi's current term to 6 years from 4, and then allow him to run again for a third term, which would last 6 years. The amendments will also bolster the role of the military in political life and increase the president's power over the judiciary. The 596-member parliament, which is dominated by Mr. Sisi's supporters, voted 531 to 22 in favor of the amendments. Our date for referendum still not being confirmed, but Cairo is full of banners encouraging Egyptians to participate. President al-Sisi's supporters say the changes are necessary to give him more time to complete major development projects and economic reforms. His critics, however, say the concentrating more powers in the hands of the leader is just not a good idea. They're accusing him of human rights and presiding over a relentless crackdown on their freedoms. So another trouble spot in Africa, the United Nations support mission in Libya has condemned the increased use of heavy weapons and indiscriminate shelling in the capital, Tripoli. A mission says civilian houses, schools and infrastructure have been damaged by the renewed fighting. According to the UN's migration agency, the number of people displaced due to hostilities in and around Tripoli is now approaching 20,000. Libyan National Army forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar launched an attack on Tripoli on April 4th, upending a national peace conference initially scheduled for April 14th to 16th.
The UN support mission in Libya condemns the increased use of heavy weapons and indiscriminate shelling that has damaged civilian houses, schools, and infrastructure. The Secretary General's Special Representative, Ghassan Salameh, continues his outreach to call for a humanitarian truce to allow for emergency services to access civilians trapped in conflict-impacted areas. The number of people displaced due to hostilities in and around Tripoli is now approaching 20,000, according to the UN's migration agency. More than 2,500 people were displaced in the last 24 hours alone. Many families fleeing conflict areas are heading towards central Tripoli and its immediate surroundings, but more than 14,000 of those displaced have sought safety outside of the capital, including Tajura, Almaya, Ain Zara, and Tarhuna. More than 8,000 people have been reached with some form of humanitarian assistance. Libyan first responder teams report that civilian evacuations are increasing, with a significant number of casualties among those evacuated. 50 civilian casualties have so far been confirmed, including 14 deaths. These figures represent a case that could be individually verified and must therefore be considered a minimum.
Still to come on the program. Officials in Côte d'Ivoire destroy 18,000 tons of rice declared unfit for human consumption. Stay with us.